welcome back. And thank you so much for those of you who were able to join us last week for Fireside Readings with a Dean. You get this Dean again this week. I'm glad to be back. I am not reading my own selection this week, but I will be reading. What's that? Oh, why aren't I wearing the robe? Well, I wore the funky tie. I have to wear the funky robe too? All right, fine, I'll be right back. There. I actually knew you'd ask for that. That's why I wore the funky tie to match the funky robe. So this week, instead of reading something from my own selections, I decided that I would go to a famous children's author that you probably have heard of before. If you haven't, his name is Shel Silverstein. You may know him for his book, The Giving Tree. However, he wrote a book with a bunch of poems in it, designed for children, but with messages for adults as well, of course, as most of his work is like. The book's name is Where the Sidewalk Ends. And so I picked out a selection of those poems. Some are simply silly, some have a message, some are uplifting, and I thought we probably needed a little bit of silliness and uplifting poetry in our lives. And we're always trying to seek out messages as we make our way through this. So here are some selected poems from Where the Sidewalk Ends. Except that my tablet okay, here we go. So at the very start of the book, as an introduction, he gives an invitation, a poem called Invitation, and here's what it says. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer, if you are a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in. The first poem I selected is a short poem called Magic. Sandra's seen a leprechaun. Eddie touched a troll. Lori danced with witches once. Charlie found some goblin's gold. Donald heard a mermaid sing. Susie spied an elf. But all the magic I have known, I've had to make myself. Now the next one, I have no idea what it's all about, but it's really fun to say out loud. And so that's the only reason I selected this. If you find a message in this, you let me know. But it's just a fun poem, I think. And it's called Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun, it's time we flew, said Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew, and Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. As higher and higher and higher they flew, Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on, stay in, I hope we do, cried Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, never return to the world they knew, and nobody knows what's happened to dear Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. I love that. It's just so fun to say. And you can buy this book and read it out loud yourself and probably do a better job than I. This next poem is called Listen to the Mustn'ts. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. Here's a somewhat longer one. It's called Smart, and this one does have a lesson. My dad gave me $1 bill because I'm his smartest son, and I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters because 2 is more than 1. And then I took the quarters and traded them to Lou For 3 dimes, I guess he don't know that 3 is more than 2. Just then along came old blind Bates, and just 'cause he can't see, he gave me 4 nickels for my 3 dimes, and 4 is more than 3. And I took the nickels to Hiram Coombs down at the seed feed store, and the fool gave me 5 pennies for them, and 5 is more than 4. And then I went and I showed my dad, and he got red in the cheeks, and he closed his eyes and shook his head, too proud of me to speak. Okay, so this next poem is called Me and My Giant, and I like this one because it's talking about a way to communicate with each other when you're not close to each other. And so here is Me and My Giant. I have a friend who is a giant, and he lives where tall weeds grow. He's high as a mountain and wide as a barn, and I only come up to his toe, you know. I only come up to his toe. When the daylight grows dim, I talk to him way down in the marshy sands, and his ear is too far away to hear, but still he understands, he stands. I know he understands. And here is what we do. I scratch his toe. Once means hello, and twice means how are you, and 3 means does it look like rain? 4 times means don't cry. 5 times means I'll scratch you a joke, and 6 times means goodbye, goodbye. 6 times means goodbye. And he answers me by tapping his toe. Once means hello, friend. 2 taps means it's very nice to to feel your scratch again. 3 taps means it's lonely here with my head up in the sky. 4 taps means today an eagle smiled as she flew by. 5 taps means oops, I bumped my head against the moon. 6 means sigh, and 7 means bye, and 8 means come back soon, soon, soon. 8 means come back soon. And then I scratch 1,000 times, and he taps with a bappity bim. And he laughs so hard he shakes the sky, and that means I'm tickling him. So our next poem is called Hector the Collector. Hector the Collector collected bits of string, collected dolls with broken heads and rusty bells that would not ring, pieces out of picture puzzles, bent up nails and ice cream sticks, twists of wires, worn out tires, paper bags, and broken bricks. Old chipped vases, half shoelaces, Gatling guns that wouldn't shoot, leaky boats that wouldn't float, and stopped up horns that wouldn't toot. Butter knives that had no handles, copper keys that fit no locks, rings that were too small for fingers, dried up leaves and patched up socks. Worn out belts that had no buckles, electric trains that had no tracks, airplane models, broken bottles, 3-legged chairs and cups with cracks. Hector the Collector loved these things with all his soul, loved them more than shining diamonds, loved them more than glistening gold. Hector called to all the people, come and share my treasure trunk. And all the silly, sightless people came and looked and called it junk. That was Hector the Collector. This next one is kind of similar to that one, and it's called The Garden. But instead of Hector, we have Simon in this one. So, old man Simon planted a diamond, grew himself a garden like the likes of none. Sprouts all growing, coming up glowing, fruits of jewels all shining in the sun. Colors of the rainbow, see the sun and rain grow. Sapphires and rubies on ivory vines. Grapes of jade just ripen in the shade, just ready for the squeezing into green jade wine. Pour gold there, blowing in the warm air, old crow nibbling on amethyst seeds. In between the diamonds, old man Simon crawls about pulling out platinum weeds. Pink pearl berries, all you can carry, put 'em in a bushel and haul 'em into town. Up in the tree there's opal nuts and gold pears. Hurry, quick, grab a stick and shake some down. Take a silver tater, emerald tomato, fresh plumped coral melons hanging in reach. Old man Simon, digging in his diamond, stops and rests and dreams about one real peach. So here is the poem for which the book was named, Where the Sidewalk Ends. There is a place where the sidewalk ends and before the street begins. And there the grass grows soft and white, and there the sun burns crimson bright, and there the moonbird rests from his flight to cool in the peppermint wind. Let us leave this place where the smoke blows black and the dark street winds and bends. Past the pits where the asphalt flowers grow, we shall walk with a walk that is measured and slow, and watch where the chalk-white arrows go to the place where the sidewalk ends. Yes, we'll walk with a walk that is measured and slow, and we'll go where the chalk-white arrows go, for the children, they mark, the children, they know, the place where the sidewalk ends. So, we've got another poem named for a person. This guy's name is Lester. That's the name of the poem, Lester. Lester was given a magic wish by the goblin who lives in the banyan tree. And with his wish, he wished for 2 more wishes, so now instead of just 1 wish, he cleverly had 3. And with each one of these, he simply wished for 3 more wishes, which gave him 3 old wishes plus 9 new. And with each of these 12, he slyly wished for 3 more wishes, which added up to 46, or is it 52? Well, anyway, he used each wish to wish for wishes till he had 5,007,018,034. And then he spread them on the ground and clapped his hands and danced around and skipped and sang and then sat down and wished for more. And more they multiplied while the other people smiled and cried and loved and reached and touched and felt. Lester sat amid his wealth, stacked mountain high like stacks of gold, sat and counted and grew old. And then one Thursday night they found him, dead, with his wishes piled around him, and they counted the lot and found that not a single one was missing. All shiny and new, here, take a few, and think of Lester as you do. In a world of apples and kisses and shoes, he wasted his wishes on wishing. So this one, all right, until a few days ago when I was reading through all of these, I could have sworn that this was an old Irish folk song, but it wasn't. This is a poem by Shel Silverstein, and it wasn't until the late 1960s that an Irish folk band made this into a famous song. And the poem that Shel Silverstein wrote was called The Unicorn. And it is silly, but it has a message too about taking care of yourself before a crisis comes. A long time ago, when the earth was green and there was more kind animals than you'd ever seen, and they run around free while the world was being born, and the loveliest of all was the unicorn. There was green alligators and long-necked geese. There was humpy-bumpy camels and chimpanzees. There was cats and rats and elephants, but as sure as you're born, the loveliest of all was the unicorn. But the Lord seen some sinning and it caused him some pain, and he says, stand back, I'm gonna make it rain. He says, hey brother, Noah, I'll tell you what you do. Go and build me a floating zoo. And you take 2 alligators and a couple of geese, 2 humpy-bumpy camels and 2 chimpanzees, take 2 cats and rats and elephants, but as sure as you're born, Noah, don't you forget my unicorn. Now Noah was there and he answered the calling, and he finished up the ark just as the rain started falling. He marched in the animals 2 by 2, and he called out as they went through, hey Lord, I got your alligators and your couple of geese, your humpy-bumpy camels and your 2 chimpanzees, got your cats and rats and elephants, but Lord, I'm so forlorn, 'cause I just don't see no unicorn. Old Noah looked out through the drive-in rain, but the unicorns were hiding, playing silly games. They were kicking and splashing in the misty morn. Oh, them silly unicorn. Then the goat started goating, and the snake started snaking, and the elephant started elephanting, and the boat started shaking. The mouse started squeaking, and the lion started roaring, and everybody aboard but the unicorn. I mean, the green alligators and the long-necked geese, the humpy-bumpy camels and the chimpanzees. Noah cried, "Close the door, 'cause the rain is pouring, and we just can't wait for them unicorn." Then the ark started moving, and it drifted with the tide, and the unicorns looked up from the rock and cried, and the water come up and sort of floated them away. That's why you'll never see a unicorn to this day. You'll see a lot of alligators and a whole mess of geese. You'll see humpy-bumpy camels and a lot of chimpanzees. You'll see cats and rats and elephants, but as sure as you're born, you're never gonna see no unicorn. It's hard to read that without the tune floating in the back of my head. Or saying it with an Irish accent. All right, so I really just have one left. We're gonna have a short reading today because too many poems thrown at you at once. You're gonna have to sort out all the messages in these. And our last poem is called Helping. Agatha Fry, she made a pie, and Christopher John helped bake it. Christopher John, he mowed the lawn, and Agatha Fry helped rake it. Zachary Zug took out the rug, and Jennifer Joy helped shake it. And Jennifer Joy, she made a toy, and Zachary Zug helped break it. And some kind of help is the kind of help that helping's all about. And some kind of help is the kind of help we can all do without. Well, that is our reading today. I'm sorry if it's a little shorter than last week's. But I hope you enjoyed the poems. Like I said, a lot of them are silly, some of them are uplifting, some of them have stories to tell of their own and lessons learned, but I just thought it was nice to calm things down for a week and take us back to our childhood and some of the poetry that was read to some of us, introduce it to those of you who don't know who Shel Silverstein is. I recommend this book to you. Again, it was called Where the Sidewalk Ends. I also recommend The Giving Tree to you. That's a great book, and one that was read to me when I was young. So I hope it brought back memories for some of you. I hope you enjoyed it. It was great to spend time again with you this week in my silly little robe, which this whole time has been kind of not on right. I hope you're all staying safe and staying home and staying 6 feet apart and washing your hands. Be well. I or someone else is going to see you again next week until this ends. And I see you all again in person, which I'm very much looking forward to. I miss you.